Hello and welcome to the Glasgow Business Gameplan, a podcast where we speak to entrepreneurs and business owners from right across Glasgow. And today we have a fantastic guest who's joined us today, Dr. Poonam Gupta. Dr. Poonam, hello.
Hi, Stephen. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. And thanks so much for taking the time out of your schedule to join us today.
It's my pleasure.
Excellent. So Poonam, could you please just tell us a little bit about your business?
So I'm the CEO and founder of PG Paper Company Limited, which is a multinational paper trading company. We operate in 60 countries and offices in 8 countries. We
Incredible.
work in all different types of paper products, the ones that you see maybe in your kitchen to your offices, and industrial paper products as well. So we do have a very large portfolio.
Excellent. And tell me, how did you get into the business? How did that start?
I started this business in 2003. It kind of came about because at that time I had just moved to Scotland. I moved to Scotland back in 2002 from Delhi, and I couldn't get a job that was fitting my qualification. So I started playing about with multiple ideas, and at that time people were talking about recycling. So initially when I started, it took me a lot of hard work and research at around 10 months of patience, just a lot of trying to make contacts with industry, finding learning on my own. I guess I didn't know much about doing business here in Scotland, or you can say the UK. So I used that time to do a lot of research, connecting with people, also bridging my knowledge gaps. And then my business was born in 2003 when I struck my first deal.
Incredible. Incredible. So that's interesting. You mentioned bridging those knowledge gaps. A lot of the times when people start off in their own business journey, they don't know what they don't know, which is quite it's a bit of an eye opener when you get to that point. So what kind of drove you into the direction of filling in those gaps, and where did you find the answers?
So when I started exploring the industry, like I said, recycling, I was kind of exploring the idea of exporting from here to the Far East, to the Indian subcontinent, and exporting there's a supply chain. Any business has a supply chain. So it became very obvious that I needed to learn about finance. I needed to learn about logistics. I needed to learn very basic things about how to set up a business or even a bank account in Scotland. So just before I actually went into business, I did a 2-month job in a chartered accountancy firm. It was a voluntary position I took, but I think it was one of the best things that happened to me because it taught me a lot, just hearing the conversation, observing the conversations, and asking the right questions. And I learned about then, Business Gateway, which is very, it's existing in Scotland, and how it can help new businesses and startups. So went to Business Gateway. They created a business plan for me. At that time, there was a £1,000 grant for new startups. I managed to get my hands on that grant, which helped me a lot. I managed to buy my new computer, which I needed to do what I was doing. And then Business Gateway kind of directed me towards a couple of courses that were happening in Glasgow, which were exactly in logistics and finance. So they were half-day courses, and they came in handy to understand. See, anybody who starts in the business doesn't know it all. Even I wouldn't say today I know it all. It all. It's a constant learning process. And as and when you are on that growth path, you learn where the gaps are, and then you try to fill that gaps, whether it's talking to other entrepreneurs, whether it's attending these short-term courses, or whether it's just learning online what one needs to do. So I think it's always a continuous journey. Learning is a continuous journey.
Definitely say so. And I think from your experience there, you had such a huge ambition right from the very start. Did you use that to motivate yourself to where the business is now, or what did you use to keep you driving forward?
So the first couple of years I worked by myself. And at that time, I was already expecting my first child, and I was working like 18, 20 hours a day. And I knew that, coming into motherhood, the pressures of that will also come on. And at that time, I started realizing that perhaps I need help already I knew the potential in the business because I was doing it for 2 years during this time. So I started then thinking about hiring people. And at the time, I requested my husband if he would consider joining the business. And he joined the business 6 months part time, learned along the way, and now he's the joint CEO of the company. And since I would say we've expanded the business together.
Amazing. Yeah, and such a crucial point to look for that support around about you to keep the business moving forward, and definitely a huge challenge to bring up, children while the demands of the business are so significant, 18,
Yes.
20 hours a day. Do you think was that one of the hardest challenges you've seen, or what's been some of the hardest challenges you've seen across the journey?
So, well, we all have our ups and downs in life, both personal and professional challenges. I'm no different. I have, gone through my own challenges. So, when my first daughter, when I was, expecting my first daughter, like I said, it was very obvious that, I didn't take any time off as such. I couldn't because it was my business is my baby. I was still the front runner very much, even though I was considering uh, other people, hiring other people. But still, the knowledge was all here in my head, and it takes time to part that knowledge to others. So, when my children were younger, it was definitely hard, trying to juggle
Mm,
uh, being a mother, especially with young kids, and running a business full time, which also, by the way, required me to travel quite a lot. So, um, but you talked about personal and professional challenges during the 22 years of my journey. The first big one was back in 2005 when, at that time, India was my only market. And something happened in India which kind of meant my business came to a standstill and I had a lot of money stuck in India. That was one of those moments when I realized that perhaps being dependent on a single market is not a good idea. I was exporting anyway. Why am I only exporting to India? And that's when I started expanding the number of countries that I was working with very actively. So, like I mentioned, now we are in 60 countries and still increasing the number of countries. I think that kind of helped me build resilience in my business. So that was the first challenge. Then in 2006, I faced my big personal challenge. I was wheelchair bound, misdiagnosed with a autoimmune disorder. I was having a 1 year old child at hand, a business which was 3 years old, which you can say is still very young business, young child, young business, pregnant with my second child, wheelchair bound. It was one of the toughest periods I think I had gone through. But again, I look back at it. I guess my business and my child both gave me a purpose and kept me distracted. That I was not dwelling so much about what was all the negative things happening in my life.
mm,
And so I was wheelchair bound for a period of around a year and a half, caring for a young child and running my business. But I think what worked for me was being the business owner myself. I parked myself on a sofa. By that time, I did have some people who worked for me, and very, um, they were very helpful in terms of, if I needed files, if I needed to take phone calls, then, they were being able to come to kind of me rather than me going to them
mm.
and get the things done over I got correctly diagnosed just before having my second child in 2007. That put me on the recovery path, and once I started recovering and I knew that I was no more I was kind of out of danger. It was misdiagnosed some as a terminal disease, so at least I was not going to die. It was a big relief, and I'd be able to see my children grow up. I then made a promise to myself that life is too short, and while I'm here, I'm going to give it my best shot. And that's when, I really started. Once I came off, I started working on my business harder, started employing people, getting a better team, and again, once again, started expanding my business.
Yeah, incredible. What a difficult start to the start of your that journey. But it sounds like to me what you said there, what you did really well was you asked yourself some incredible questions. When you had the challenge with cash flow, it was how do you get yourself out of that as opposed to going the opposite way in a negative way, and then look into how do you build the relationships around that can keep your business moving forward. So there's loads of really positive things that you've shown in there, and it's all come from that. It sounds like a real intrinsic drive, that real motivator to deliver and have the best life that you can, and for you and the family.
So, I lost my mother quite young. When I first moved to Scotland, I got the bad news that my mother wasn't well. I went back to India. I mean, I was barely here for a week and I went back to India and I never got to say my goodbye. She was very young when I lost her. That was a huge personal setback. And I guess when I was ill, this thing used to go in my head that I wanted to see my children grow up. I wanted, I had that will to live because of my 1-year-old daughter at the time. And I think that kept me going. That kind of brought that internal resilience that I needed. And like I said, I was distracted with my focus being on my girl and my business. And another thing was, I think, which is important to highlight here, I mentioned that I had to travel a lot for work. So before, I was wheelchair bound, like before my daughter was 1 year old, I had to travel a lot during that period as well. And I was a nursing mother. So one thing I did was that I would just take her everywhere with me. And so my daughter traveled to multiple countries all across the globe with me before she was 1 year old and attended board meetings or whatever I had to do. And then I learned this that sometimes, we don't ask for support. But honestly, everywhere I went, whether it was China, Thailand, India, I had family anyway, or UAE, or anywhere that I went, I found people very supportive, intrigued but that this woman is traveling on business but she's traveling with her little girl, but also very supportive. When they found themselves in the situation that I turned up to meet board meetings with a child, she would sit in a corner in her pram, but I would often have people very quickly come around and like, would you like us to entertain her and take her away? And I think that also used to be a great icebreaker. So another thing I've learned and I've implemented and talk about often is don't hesitate to ask for that help and support. Don't assume that one would come across stupid or one would somebody would say no. I mean, even today our office has a very open policy with dogs and children both. you know so if we have young parents who work for us, and if they are struggling with child care, or the child is not well and they still insist on coming into the office, we have an open policy where you can bring your child, and we have a large team here at the headquarter and everybody keeps the child entertained. Or for that matter, if you're bringing in your dog, we are very open about that. And I think those are the learnings from my experience that I've implemented in my business to ensure that my team feels supported.
That's incredible, and there's so much in there to talk about and delve into a little bit further. You spoke about traveling with a 1-year-old, which even just for a holiday, that's a challenge. Never mind on business trips. But it kind of almost forced you into creating those relationships as you went, asking for that support. And I think on reflection, when your market for your business is thousands and thousands of miles away, you need to be able to build relationships at the opposite end that you can trust and rely on.
Yes, true.
Yeah.
And we need to remember, see, now since post-COVID, things are different. You and I were speaking to each other through technology. At that time, there wasn't so much use of Zoom or Teams and all of that. People wanted to meet in person. So it was, and plus it was the beginning of my business. I had to go introduce myself. I had two options. One was I take time off, a couple of years off. But, I started this business, like I said, I was still the front runner. I decided not to take the back seat, although that was a personal choice. So I had to find ways where I could support myself and my children and still see them grow up. And that's the choice I made. And even today, like a lot of people that I work with that I started with then always laugh and tell me how I should travel with my little daughter who's now 19. Her name is Sanvi. In fact, there have been times I've traveled with both of them together. Although having said that, that wasn't easy to travel with both of them together.
Oh, I'd imagine. So there's a lot of demand on you then, Poonam, with the family and growing the business. And while you're the face of the business and doing all the traveling, you're building a team back in Scotland, back at the head office. And you need that team to support you and take control and understand how the business is running. So how did you go around communicating the day-to-day operations of the business with the team so that it was done in a way that you required it to be, that your customers were looking for?
So, I believe that, business is about processes and people. Like that's the core of at least my business I can talk about. So when I started in business, very quickly, I started understanding what were the repetitive processes and I started putting things in place so somebody else could take on part of the job that I was doing. And
Mm.
then as the business grew post 5 million pounds, it became very obvious that, we would need, if we are going to hire people, we would need better processes in place. So I ensured that, we developed our own in-house software, which helped others do likes of export documentation. The logistics part was kind of handed over to the team. And communication, when you're handing over processes, of course, how you explain to them to your team is very, very important, to set out common goals, to set out what we are, the vision and everything else. So we just ensured that the team was well aligned, understood what we are trying to achieve, and the processes were there to empower them to do their job. And that's how I think, every time we were ready for the next big leap, we looked at our processes and our people. And then, we added or changed whatever needed to be changed to make sure that we are set for the next part of journey.
Incredible. And I love what you've said there in terms of, you have to systemize the routine and then humanize the exception through the people. But you empower those people because you've given them that strong vision of the business, that leadership. You've given them the rules with which they can go and they can be the best that they can within your business, training them up to speed with the processes and systems that you have, but constantly reviewing that as well. How can it get better, and how do we improve these and make it more efficient? And there's so many great things that are happening there, and I think that's obviously reflective of where the business is now, which is a credit to yourself and your husband for leading it there. Y-
I,
You've
I, yeah, I think when we hit the 20 million pound turnover, we were still only 6 people in the business. So people and processes were critical to the business. And at that point, I think there was also a realization that we've got it right so far. We didn't always get it right, but every time we didn't get it right, we kind of looked at the problems and how are we going to fix it. And we ensured that we took the team with us and they understood what we were trying to achieve. I'm a really strong believer that, the people, like I mentioned, that, people are really, really integral part of my business, and I can get the best out of them when they feel supported, when they feel safe. And I also am a big believer in giving them the tools to make the decisions themselves. So they're not completely dependent on me on making a decision for them. And that will come when they feel safe in the environment.
Mm.
So again, I have a very open, approachable policy. I have very young team. We have a very wide age group dynamic. The youngest one is often a 17-year-old, and the oldest one could be in their 60s, for example. Age is just a number as far as we are concerned, but it's a very inclusive environment where everybody feels heard, everybody feels supported. And I can still do that because I still have, even though I have a global team, I still have quite a lean team, although we have managers and all the hierarchy in place. But if there's something critical, then certain hierarchy, if it's not working, doesn't need to be followed. See, see in export, when we are exporting something, especially I'm into product export and it's deep sea, everything is time bound. Time is
Mm.
critical. And the team understands that time is critical, especially when, as we say, the problems come. Problem solving becomes very important. So one of the key roles I have in my business, along with my commercial director now, is troubleshooting. to be ready to troubleshoot when an issue arises. And we work in 60 different countries. So you can imagine we're working with 60 different languages, 60 different cultures, sometimes more than that. And another part of my team understanding this export we do and working with various countries is sometimes not to take things personally and let go of certain things based on cultural differences. The way somebody talk in a particular country is something completely different of Japanese can be very nice, very humble, very diplomatic. Americans are very straightforward. British are somewhere in the middle. So, it's also empowering them with that kind of knowledge.
But definitely, communication, particularly when you're building those relationships, is key. And not everybody communicates in the same way. I think you've pointed out really well, particularly when there's cultural differences involved there as well.
Yes.
Um, but Poonam, it sounds like you've got those great relationships externally to the business. You've created that family, that relationship culture within the business as well. Um, were there any key relationships that you had that made a significant impact on the business as you were coming through?
I am a strong believer in mentorship. I didn't really know the term at the time, I have to be honest, but I did find people along the way, kind of who you can say motivated me or pushed me to do better. So at one point, we were actually doing the largest volumes of waste paper out of Scotland, and I was working with a company in Stirling, and the boss there, he would always tell me that if nobody can do it, if I can't do it, then nobody can do it, and that kind of made me like really want to do well. And then there have been people along the way. If I've been stuck in any country for any issue, you can say call them guardian angels or whatever you want to call them. But I think I recently posted something on my LinkedIn saying, if you're kind, if your vibe is kind, you'll find your tribe, something like that. And I totally believe in that. When your intentions are right, you're trying to do right, and you get stuck, I often find that, I'll find people. And that's why network becomes important, who'll help me see through that. So not just help me see through the good times or motivate me during the good times, but also helping me in a foreign country when they would say to me, just come over and we'll solve it. We'll be there for you. You're finding lawyers for me, whatever. And helping me through that process. So networking, mentorship, and yes, I'm very lucky that I've had people along the way who have motivated me. I also find a lot of motivation in my girls, who are now 17 and 19, integral part of my life, integral part of my business. I often say that I've had it easy with them. I've had it easy with them. They make my life easy. The school has always been complimentary about their behavior. Academically, they are sound. And so, I've never had to worry about them. I guess they've always seen me working from a, very young age. And they understand my pressures. And they're very supportive when they think I'm going through a very stressful period, providing me that you can say love or, just space that I might need, or making sure they don't put a lot of undue demands on me. So they're very independent as well. And then, obviously comes the role of the family, that your own people who work for you. I also find motivation when my team feels proud about what we are doing. And thankfully, we've won a lot of awards for the business, for myself, and my team has won a lot of awards over last 2 decades. And I feel that also kind of feels good. Every time you win something, you're like, yeah, I've come so far. Now, how far I'm ready to go. So that keeps me going. Although, I don't want to lie here either. We all have bad days. It's how we deal with those bad days and get over them and come out at the other end, which is important.
Yeah, I think so. And that last point is really interesting because it's a choice, isn't it? Sometimes it doesn't feel like that, but it is a choice in terms of, and it sounds like again through your history you've faced those choices and taken the one that you feel is the most positive.
Yes. Yeah, I think, like we've all see social media, we'll all put up our best foot forward. Let's be honest, we are not here to get attention to say, oh, this is going wrong. And that's just not the person I am. Uh, But that support comes from family and friends or people that I trust. And again, that's when the importance of network or people, like I say, is important. At the end of the day, we are humans. We need that connection. We need to talk to each other. And what I remember 7 years ago, I went through a phase in my business where I was feeling, I was losing a lot of people to big corporates. And I was thinking, what am I doing wrong? That was time to self-respect, reflect. Am I doing something wrong, which is pushing people out? And it was very useful at that time to speak to other entrepreneurs and seeing if they were facing the same challenges, and then understanding to get to the bottom of that and getting it right. And I'm very proud to say I have team now who've been with us for over a decade. I did get over through that period. And I've also had team sometimes who have left and come back. So again, that goes for saying that the culture in my business that we are very proud of, which is inclusive, which is supportive. And I think that came naturally because of my own struggles, bringing up a family, being a, you can say, woman CEO, empathy, and all of that. And I'm very big believer in that the businesses should look at their practices and try and make an environment which feels healthy, where people feel supported and they'll get the best out of them. People are not just numbers. Even if it's a large organization, people are people, humans. They are not numbers, and emotional intelligence is very important.
Oh, definitely. And there's a saying I've heard, which is that people don't build businesses, you build people who build your business. And I think that that period that you went through where perhaps you were losing people to other environments, but you've created that vision and those values within the business where you will attract the right people that will take it to where you want it to go, and it keeps it honest and true to itself as well, which is and it's amazing that you stuck by that again in a time where it could have been very easy to change, to make whether that would have been a change in hourly rates or different conditions or whatever it was that people were leaving for short-term benefits for. So it's a credit to yourself as well for building such a strong environment.
I think I think what is important is, like I said, we can easily blame somebody else. But what is when once you can get it wrong, or somebody else can get it wrong, but if it's happening as a series, that means it is time to reflect what we on our own practices. And I think that's really critical to understand that, to understand why, and then to fix it. And that happens in every part of my business. If we get something wrong, it's always going back to the root, why,
Mm.
and then try to fix it so it doesn't happen in the future again. And like I said, it's a constant learning process. Nobody starts a business. I didn't start a business knowing it all. I'm sure if I went back today knowing what I know today, I would have done a lot of things differently. I would have hired much faster. I would have known the kind of people I need. I would have possibly implemented better systems much faster rather than implementing one or the other, or choosing one over the other. But we all know also technology keeps changing, so it's about keeping up with the changing environment, understanding the dynamism, embracing those challenges, and then re-strategizing with a calm head. It's
Mm.
very important. I tell my children all the time, sometimes I get really angry, everybody does, or we have emotions because something's gone wrong. But I say to my children as well, I said, when you're very angry, you're not able to think, or stressed, because the blood is not traveling to your brain, you can't think. So breathe in, breathe out, do some exercise, take some time out, and come back to that problem again and fix it. So
Do you know
again,
what?
for me, it's a constant learning process. I didn't know this 5 years ago. you
Yeah.
know I would go into this loop, and I would keep on into this loop. Now I know, cut off, come back. Even sometimes 5 minutes matter, just taking that 5 minute break or 2 minute break, having a heated conversation. Just just say to them, let me call you back in 5 minutes, and come back to it. It's a completely different conversation.
I heard that there's a process that the NHS uses, which is any meetings, they have a HALT process, which stands for are you hungry, angry, late, or tired? Because all of those things will affect the decisions that you make. So if that's the
Yes.
case, then yeah, to stop the meeting and go and refresh and re-energize and come back to it with a clear head. So yeah,
Yeah.
great insight. Really, really good. You mentioned technology, and obviously, technology is moving so quickly now, and it's only going to get faster. And things like AI are coming in and impacting how businesses operate. How are you adapting to technological changes in your business?
Well, we are implementing AI already. Parts of, like, we are using AI to our benefit in almost all key areas of our business. And we are making sure again, once again, that we take our people with it. We have a team of experts who are constantly looking at our processes and making them better. So we
Mm.
have IT professionals who not only keep the systems right, but also make sure that they teach the people, and they take any anxiety away of learning new processes with ease. Again, something that I feel is quite well done in our company. Uh, I'm a I'm a geek myself. I love technology, and I need to learn about various things. I have this insatiable need to learn, and I read about all sort of stuff, including technology.
Mm.
I find it very exciting, whether it's robotics, whether it's medical, anything and everything. I've like very diverse range of interests I read about. So, to obviously, when I'm so interested in it, I need to make sure that it is also implemented in my business. Sometimes I can become very impatient when it's not being done fast enough, but I also try to understand that things take time.
Yeah, definitely. And you really embrace this culture of growth and education for the business, and obviously you've just mentioned there for yourself as well, and your thirst for knowledge. Um, do you have any routines that you bring into your day, your week that allows you to implement that those kind of self-development sessions, whether it's, do you read audiobook or, exercise? What do you do and how does it fit into your routine of running a business and a family?
I do read a lot. I'll read the first thing I wake up in the morning. I'm always reading something. Last thing in the night, I'm always reading something. In between, when I get time, if I think I have some time, I'm reading something. Thankfully, now I also get pitched a lot of business ideas. So I do believe in mentorship. So I speak to a lot of businesses who are in different areas. And if I find it like I get to learn a lot through that, but also, so, learning then becomes a two-way process. I try to learn what they are trying to do. Business skills are transferable. I've been doing this for 2 decades is a good time to say that I've been doing it for long enough.
Yeah.
So, when people are talking to me about international business and all, I'm able to tell them what to look at differently. But also, I judge a lot of awards across the UK, sometimes in other countries as well, business awards, female entrepreneurship awards, and things like that. Again, that really enhances my learning. Um, in terms of my exercising routine and all that, it goes on and off depending upon, I need to be more disciplined with that. But it's just, with my sometimes, see, I don't like to say, if I don't do something, I don't like to make an excuse for that.
Mm.
If I say I can't do it because, the moment I say that, for me in my own head, it's an excuse. So I'd rather not go there. But it's lot of things that I juggle still. Like I said, my children, my work, my people, traveling. I travel a lot. I'm away at least 2, 3 times a month. This month's been slightly quieter. I tend to go away a lot on business. So in between, I manage whatever I manage. But reading is something that I do not compromise on.
Oh, brilliant. Now, we've spoken a lot today about building relationships, and that's something that you've been recognized for, not just in the results of your own business, but externally to that as well. So your involvement in the Chamber of Commerce, and your different efforts have been acknowledged by your peer group and the industry, wider as well. You've received awards like the Global Entrepreneur of the Year. And I think it was it 2016 that you were also awarded the OBE from the Queen's New Year's Honours List. What was that
Yes.
like? What was that like, the occasion?
It was delightful. It was not something that was, I have to be honest, I never thought I'd get it that quickly either. I was quite young. It's already been nearly 10 years since I got it. And I went to Buckingham Palace to get it. It was a wonderful ceremony. And, those are the moments that I feel very grateful for. And those are also the moments which keep, motivating me to do better. I got my OBE for business and charity work. again, let's just talk about charity, for example, for a second. I mean, coming from India, it's not very difficult to realize that not everybody is born equal or is privileged enough to get whatever they want. And I feel that, if I can help, or, we are in a position to help, whether whatever, we think that purpose is, that we should try and work towards that. So I'm a patron of a lot of charities. I have done work with the elephant family, which works in conservation of elephants in Asia. I have worked with multiple small or large charities who work in women entrepreneurship, leadership, very close to my heart, as you can imagine. Girl education is another one. So I had kind of, you can say, I had adopted girls in India whose education I was paying for. And I have even ensured that my children understand the importance of that. The good thing is, through school, when the children do awards like DOE, Duke of Edinburgh, they learn all of this, but they've also seen us doing it from a very young age, and they get involved working in charity shops, working with UNICEF or Oxfam, or so my older ones volunteered multiple times with drug addicts. And so I quite like that. I feel it is so important. For me, corporate CSR is not a box ticking exercise. For me and for my people here, like a lot of my team here goes out to local schools and speak to them about leadership, entrepreneurship, uh, just the local schools here. For me, CSR is not a box ticking exercise for me and my companies. It is about, giving back to the society and ensuring that we are making that positive impact. And I'll always say, if we are in a position to do that, we must take out some time to do that.
Yeah, incredible. And such an important, if you're in a position to be able to give back, that you've adopted that and sharing that message through the family, it's really incredible, brilliant. So we've kind of went through the journey, which has been amazing. Such a difficult start, and got you to where you are now, with all of the trials and tribulations on the way. What does the next 5 years look like for you and PG Paper?
See, 5 years ago, also, the next 5 years would have been the best years of my life. I didn't plan for COVID, but I'm also very happy to say those were some of the most difficult times for all of us, both personally and professionally.
Mm-hmm.
And, coming through that period, which was very hard, also for the business, I can look back and say that I felt really good that I built a very resilient business, and that resilience came from the fact that we were not dependent upon a single market. We are working in multiple markets, although COVID did challenge that very thing as well, because multiple markets went into simultaneous lockdown.
Yeah.
Having come through that, looking back at my journey, my next 5 years are always going to be better than my last 5 years. I'm a blue sky thinker. I like to keep a positive mindset. PG is on its growth journey. And beside PG, I have other businesses as well, which we have now, some of them started 7, 8 years ago, which are all doing well. Challenges are everywhere. It's about addressing the challenges. And I'm looking forward to perhaps, again, diversifying and looking into what else I can do next along with my team, and build a wider team, build a more empowered team. I want to see more women leadership. So yeah, even when you come back and ask me the question 5 years later, I'll say to you the next 5 years are going to be better than the last 5.
Such a good outlook. Thanks, Poonam. And thanks so much for sharing your story today. It's been a great journey to take us on. I'd just like to finish up, I suppose, with a question which, for a lot of business owners who are starting out, probably not quite as difficult a position as you started out from there, but there will be an element of they feel that they have to do a lot of it alone, that, the business that they're building relies on them a lot of the time. What advice would you give to, new businesses or entrepreneurs around building relationships?
Okay, so what I'll say, if I may, I'm going to maybe say a little bit more than what you've just asked. See, the good thing is there's so much happening now in supporting entrepreneurship these days, or supporting startups. There are startup hubs, there are initiatives left, right, and center. There are government initiatives, there are private initiatives, there are big entrepreneurs who are throwing help out there. There are networks, lot of networks, Entrepreneurial Scotland, Chamber of Commerce, many, many networks out there. an an entrepreneurial journey doesn't have to be a lonely journey anymore. So I would say to the people who are trying to start up their business, get that help, or speak to other people, become a part of a network as fast as possible. Don't waste time. You can learn from other people's journey and experiences. Life is too short to learn it all from your own experiences. So, when it happened to me and I learned along the way, some of the things, I'm teaching them faster. Don't just wait and sit around thinking, oh, maybe when I reach a certain point in my business, then I'll connect. You don't need to. You can still start going to those business dinners and still start having those conversations and start building up that on that network, which does come in handy. And you can make some, and also try and get yourself a mentor, and that would be possible through these connections, through these networks. That mentor helps. A mentorship thing is like, see, when I mentor businesses or when I was being mentored, it's about bouncing problems off each other and telling them, okay, I'm thinking this, what do you think? A mentor will not run a business for you, but will certainly listen to your ideas, and will help you kind of, perhaps even give you a nudge in the right direction or tell you perhaps to think differently. Mentorship, relationship, networks, extremely important. Starting a business is important, but it doesn't have to be lonely anymore. And when you are stuck, one of the wisest words somebody gave me, or advice you can say, is, when I'm asking somebody, can you help me, and they can't, ask them who can. And that
Brilliant.
was like, that did really come in handy. The other thing was, I often don't take no for an answer, but I have learned to be slightly diplomatic about it, to go around it and see how I can get it done. And when you're starting a new business, it's also important to research your idea beyond your friends and family. Because, once something goes into your head or my head, I might think it's a phenomenal idea, but what if it's not? So, and to be able to get that right judgment on a right call on it, it's important to do your research beyond friends and family to understand what does the general public or somebody who doesn't know you think about it. So there are quite a few key lessons in here, and be tight on the budget. Very tight on the budget. Business is not about having a fancy office and a secretary from day one. Business is about building something, making sure that you are building something. It's about those building blocks, putting the foundation down and then build on it. So don't be in rush to spend a lot of money trying to get yourself a fancy office. People are, the best thing is happening now, hybrid working. Everybody understands people work from home. So, budgeting is extremely important as well. So I'm sorry, but I've dumped a lot of things in here. But hopefully, this is what I think might help some entrepreneurs on their journey.
Oh, definitely. I think so. There's some real great advice in there. Get the support, build those relationships. And then that final one of, be patient for growth, but I suppose be impatient for profit, because that'll be the lifeblood of your business as well.
Yes.
Poonam, thank you so much. This has been an incredible conversation. I'd love to hear more about your story. Tell me, if people wanted to find out more about PG Paper, where can they find you, and how can they get in touch with you?
So we have a website, www.pgpaper.com. We also have, all social media channels, Twitter, Instagram. We also have a live chat on our website, and of course, LinkedIn page too. So, they can get in touch.
Incredible. Poonam, thank you again for sharing your insights on your journey, and we wish you all the best for the next 5 years, which will be better than the last, I'm sure.
Yes, thank you. And it's been really a pleasure talking to you as well, Stephen. Thank you.
Thanks, Poonam.